Greetings, magical souls. It's been a little bit since I've been on here. It feels like years, but I know it's only a couple of weeks. I wanted to share something today. I alluded in my last little video of what the dragons are actually doing in the sky that I've been having some very strange dream experiences. And I want to share this because I feel like it was such an important message in this so-called, I'm calling them dreamscapes or dream walks, and I'll explain why. But there was such an important message, and I thought it would be helpful to share in case anybody feels like they really are losing their mind. And maybe you can relate to some of these things. We've got very interesting things happening at the moment. So, just to start off, I know that a lot of us, our dreams might be hazy when we start to wake. We know that when we have lucid dreams, we've almost got an awareness in the dream, and sometimes we can like be controlling what we're doing in the dream. We like don't just feel like the dream's happening to us, but we have this way of being able to actually be like engaging and almost doing what we want to in the dream. But even when, well, at least when I have lucid dreams, I'm aware that I'm in the dream and I'm aware that it is a dream, but I'm still in that dream space. So I have an awareness that I'm in the dream, but I don't really have an awareness of my physical body. But I know that me as M is in the dream, if that makes any sense. Now, what's really been interesting is that I've had a couple of these dreams lately, and there was a series of events that happened. I'm not going to go into that, but there were some really epiphanies that I have with things that I've been working through in my own life. I then had my cat come and join me in a hypnosis session, which the cats never do that. And my one cat was actually like kneading on me and then purring the whole 2 hours through this hypnosis session. And then these very strange dreamscapes started to unfold. And why I'm saying that they're more than lucid dreaming is that it's like I'm having a lucid dream and I know I'm in the dream and I'm able to see what's going on, but I have awareness of my physical self, my physical body as it's lying on the bed. So much so that it almost feels like I'm kind of able to like me as maybe if I was just this sounds really wild, but if I was just the physical body, it's almost like the physical body is lying there watching the soul and the ego side of me have a conversation. And what's fascinating is that I'll share the dream now, but when I'm in the dream, this is another thing about a lucid dream. When I'm in a lucid dream, I'm aware that it's a dream and I'm having the experiences and I can feel certain sensations in that, but not in my body. I can feel them in the dream. With these things, I'm actually able to feel what's going on in the dream in my physical body as it lies on the bed. So in this dream, I was in a motorhome, for example, and what was so bizarre is that the motorhome was driving, but my physical self on the bed could feel all the bumps we were going over. When I was going round, I could feel like my body doing this in the bed. I mean, it was so bizarre. So anyway, on to the dream. Oh, first of all, I wake up with a massive headache the one morning. And I get these normally when I don't get headaches, but normally when I get this kind of headache, I will normally find out like 24 hours later, whatever, that there's been a solar flare. So I wake with this headache and I go, oh my goodness, I don't have to get out of bed for like an hour or two. I'm going to lie here. I'm just going to let this go. So I take some tissue salts and I drink some water and I go back to bed. And I'm lying there, and this is when this like dreamscape happens. And all of a sudden, I am in this motorhome. But in the motorhome, I'm also lying in the bed in the motorhome with this headache. And I am cursing this headache like, I've got to get up, I've got to get up, I've got to attend to the kids, I've got to attend to the motorhome, I've got to do all these things. Like I've got like this to-do list running around in my head. And I'm getting really, really anxious in this dream. But I'm aware that it's the same headache that I've got lying on the bed in my physical body, and I'm aware that I'm not really in the motorhome, but that I am. So it's really fascinating for me about these two things is it feels like I have my human self-consciousness, but a higher consciousness or the consciousness of my soul, but they're coexisting in real time and also sort of like the real experiences, like the headache, like there's things that are common in the dream and in my physical space. So that's another element that's not always present in lucid dreams. So the kids are in there, but my kids are small. They're like maybe like 6 and 8. So that's like they're young. And my cats are with me. But I am lying in the bed going, I have to get up because I can see that we're in a, with all the things going past, I can see road signs and all sorts of things. And I know that we've come into a town. Now my motorhome is driving on its own in this dream. And I'm going, I've got to get out of bed because we're in a town. I've got to get up. I've got to check. Are we on still on the right route? And if we need to get petrol, I need to fill up in the town. Otherwise, we might run out of petrol. And I cannot get out of bed. And at the same time, I'm kind of wondering in this dream, like, well, if I've got such a headache and whatever, why don't I just pull over somewhere and, like rest so that I don't have to have all these things worrying me. I can just get over the headache and then like my mind comes in and goes, no, 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 because we can't wait. We've got to go. We just got to go, go, go. We've got to keep going. We can't pull over. There's no time. We can't stop. I'm going, okay, whatever. And then I managed to drag myself to the front of this motorhome and I look around and I check the petrol gauge and it's full and I'm going, what the hell? Like, why aren't we using any petrol? Like, and then I check the sort of the navigation system and I can see, no, we're on the right route. And so I kind of drag myself back to the bed and I lie there. And then it was during this stage, as I'm lying there, and like just having just a moment to relax and to breathe, that I can feel going round all the turns and stopping at all the intersections. And I mean, it's like really wild. And so anyway, so this carries on for a while. Then I'm still lying in the bed next town. I can see I start to like wake up and come out of my headaches feeling a little bit better, but not entirely gone. And notice that we're in the next town. And again, like drag myself to the front of the motorhome, check. Okay, no, we've still got 3/4 of a tank. Okay, petrol's good. We're still on course, drag myself back. This went on and on and on. Like, I don't know how many towns I went through. So, funnily enough, that dream felt like it went on for about 50 days. But when I woke, it was only an hour later. And I remember waking up and going, oh, wow, okay, my headache's gone. Okay, I'm so glad I stayed in bed and just had this rest. And then I've got this like dream that's like running through my head, and I'm going, how bizarre was it that I had the headache, but I could feel the motorhome moving? And like, this feels like really, really weird. Like, this feels like something that I need to unpack. Like, what the hell is going on here? And it was so fascinating because, as I say, it was almost like I wasn't quite awake as I was just waking up and going, oh, okay, this is weird. That's weird. I need to get my journal out, da, 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 da. And all of a sudden, all these like insights are dropping in. And this is the part where it was almost like me lying there on the physical bed, just like watching my sort of higher self or my soul or whatever, kind of arguing with my ego self, which was also quite weird because I obviously wasn't quite awake, but I was awake, but I wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, I actually don't have words. So what drops in for me really is that the ego, because this whole thing happened. It was like, yeah, well, why didn't we stop somewhere? And there was no time to stop, and we could have stopped. And I had to keep getting up, and and my head was sore. And then it was like, yeah, well, you didn't have to keep getting up. You could have just let the motorhome drive itself. And no, I couldn't. And so there was this ping-ponging going back between supposedly these two aspects of myself that I'm watching like on a movie screen, kind of like just really. Anyway, yeah, I am fully on the crazy train. I don't even know what to say anymore. Um, but so anyway, so really how this all unfolds is this. My ego self was needing to get up and check, do I have petrol? Am I on the right course? We can't stop. We've got to keep going. Like there's no time to waste. There's this urgency, and the motorhome was almost like, I guess in the dream, was my higher self or my soul self or both or all or none or whatever label we want to give these things. And the message was very clear at the end of this. It was kind of like, well, you see, I had this. I mean, at no time did I run out of petrol. At no time did I go off course. And I was able to just stay in the back of the motorhome, and it was knowing where it was going. And so there was this real message just like delivered to me of I I've got this. There are things happening around you, and whatever. You don't need to keep trying to control and stressing about these things. Like we've got this. We're gonna get there. We're not gonna run out of gas. We're on the right path. There's no need to worry. And if you need to stop and rest, stop and rest. That would have been fine. But even if you feel like maybe you can't always stop and rest, I've got this. Like I've got us. I've got us. I'm sorted, So and so it was really important because it was really this being steered by my higher intelligence. Like like the ego doesn't need to be concerned with so much that it's been concerned with. Like it's kind of like a just ease up. Now, the reason this was so fascinating is what dawned on me afterwards while I was journaling is that if any of you know from watching my channel, I think there've been a couple of times that I've mentioned almost like when we come into this body, this person many years ago had this analogy, like when we come into this body here on earth, it's like because of the amnesia and that, like the kind of the soul was gone and the this was gone and the higher self was gone and whatever, and the ego kind of went, shit, someone's got to drive the car. So the ego jumped into the driver's seat and has been in the driver's seat ever since. And that's how this person described this. Like somebody had to take the wheel, and that was the ego, because there was this amnesia and kind of nobody else was home type thing. And I always loved that analogy. But as I've been going through this uh, awakening, or should I say, remembering process, the past couple of years, I've used the analogy of kind of like, yeah, the ego is like in this death grip behind the wheel, and my soul's kind of come from like either somewhere in the trunk or the boot or whatever you want to call it, and it's now managed to get into the back seat of the car, and now it's in the passenger seat of the car, and it's going, can I have the wheel please? And the ego is still sitting there going, nope, 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 I've got to have control. And so that's how the analogy kind of has been unfolding for me, like the higher self or the soul self just getting closer and closer to actually taking the wheel. And that's why I loved this dream, because it was so profound. And what I realized at the end of this, after unpacking it, is that my soul is in the driver's seat, or my higher self, or the ego is finally The ego is now sitting in the passenger seat, which I think is why the argument was happening. Like, you should have, you shouldn't have, you would, I could have, blah, 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 whatever. And so, it's like listening to your parents. Like if you sat in the back of the car and they were driving, they were arguing about you should have pulled over there and now we've run out of petrol. And watching these two aspects of myself was like watching my parents argue when I was younger. And so, what's so profound for me is that my soul is in the driver's seat. And I share this because I wonder how many of you out there this has actually happened to, and you might not be fully aware of it. And you might notice that you've got more conversations almost going on where it's like, I mean, I know we've always had these like internal conversations with ourselves and we can hear our thoughts but this is bigger. If you're starting to really feel like you're crazy and like you've got two or more beings or consciousnesses within you, this may be what's happening because it's like the soul is now it was like I've got this, I've got us, I've got the ego was still there panicking about the petrol and the path and yeah, all these other things, but there've been so many things going on in my life of late that I know just 6 months ago, a year ago, would have had me in an absolute tiz, like strung out, terrified, horrified, panicked, like really, really stressed out. And I've noticed that I just seem to have this capacity to handle things a little bit better. What really, really landed for me in this dream is that my soul is now the driver. It's behind the wheel like it should have been from the beginning. And the ego is now in the passenger seat. And I think that is such an amazing place to be. Sure, it's crazy, it's nuts. And I think it's another reason I share this is because if you're like me at the moment and you're sort of oscillating between, just having so much love and compassion for people to the next minute wanting to like throat punch somebody who takes your parking spot or just behaves like a complete dous in the shop. I just, so it's that kind of thing because it really feels like, well, it feels like I'm bipolar, but I know that I'm not sort of in the 3D sense because it really is this such wide like extremes of things that I'm going through at the moment. And also being very aware of these things, being aware of how calm I can be and how different I am. And then when I do want to get to that throat punch point, that being very aware of like, what's got you so agitated type thing, So it's this greater awareness and this greater consciousness all round. And I mean, it still doesn't stop me from being human and just losing my shit some days. But that's besides the point. The other thing in the dream was almost that the not slowing down, the not wanting to stop, the no time to have the headache was almost showing me the importance of how taking time to slow down if you need to, taking time to integrate things. So often after there's been like a couple of wild things, there's this bit of a void that you go into. And sometimes I know that when I'm there and I feel like nothing's happening, I sometimes feel like I'm stuck. But that's often the integration phase. It's the you've just kind of come up from something and almost like leveled up and you've got to integrate it and embody it before you can now move to like the next phase in your journey. And so that was really a really important message that like it's okay also to sometimes even just sit with that. So if you're dealing with something, it might be a physical ache or whatever, but even if it's shadow work coming up again, where it's that bloody returning suitcase or it's the next layer or however you want to put it, it's okay to sometimes just sit with it, to just sit with it. Just sit with it and see, does this need more work? Can I just release it? Maybe it's just the last bit. And we always know in here whether whether we need to really do any more work or whatever. The brain's often going, I need to understand why that was there and what was going on. And sometimes it's the last layer and you can literally just release it. We really need to start getting comfortable with not knowing. And so that was the message around the headache. So for anybody out there who is, struggling to try and understand everything, I encourage you to just, if you're really, really battling with something or something keeps coming up or whatever, go and sit in meditation, sit in quiet, connect with your heart and go, what does it feel like? I know my brain might be telling me I need to understand this. Why is it still there? What do I still have to do? Da, 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 and it's going through its checklist. But if you feel in here that you'll know whether there's something still there to do or not. And only you know that. So to just really tune in, because sometimes it's just a case of just breathing and going, wow, I'm ready to let that go. I don't even know. I don't feel like I need to do any more work on it. That's such an old thing. And maybe it's just like the remnants, almost like the coffee grinds at the bottom of your cup, like the dregs when you've drunk, and there's always this like residue. You'll know whether there's any work or anything that needs to be done there. And then the other one was around the I can't stop. So it was tied to the headache, but it was the I can't stop. The can't stop and the need to keep going, and we've just got to keep going. We've just got to keep going. That is a 3D program running. That is a survival program. That is a program that is running for most of us as we've been living in this very mental, false world. And it really made me pause and go, wow, I don't have to do that anymore. And the bigger message behind this was also that we're never going to run out of petrol. We're never going to go off path. And so what we see as stopping and as pausing and then like maybe failure because we go, oh, well, why do I need to stop? Why do I need to rest? Like, why can't I be bloody superwoman and just carry on and, just keep hammering away like we did? The stopping is not stagnation. It's also integration because you're you sometimes do need to pause. I mean, that's why I often say I feel like the universe has pressed the pause button again. And it's often then that we're all going through something before the next, like as a collective, before the next like leveling up. So that pausing sometimes is really, really important because you need almost that pause to integrate, to recalibrate, for your body to align to the new energies, for all these things to come in. But there was still this element of my ego going, no, 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 we just got to keep going. We can't slow down. We can't wait. We can't, we can't do any of these things. We just got to go, 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 go. And a lot of when I keep thinking about my journey and where most of the work is done, it's actually in the pauses. It's in the quiet moments. It's not in the doing, it's in the being. Most of my magic happens in the being moments, in the spaces where I'm just sitting, and sometimes in the spaces where I feel I'm falling apart. That's where the most of me comes in. That's where the most work happens. That's where the most embodiment happens. And you can't almost it's like you can't go to the next level until you've integrated the stuff, because as I've mentioned before, we're getting out of the need to just understand this. Like there's certain things that I understand and I know, but it's a whole different thing when I feel them and I embody them and I integrate them. They have a different way that they land, and there's such an impact that understanding goes from something that I've just gone, oh yeah, I know how to do that, to really like feeling it and going, whoa, I now understand the impact of that or the importance of it. So it's really, really so important. Stopping is not failure. It's not that you're stagnant. If you're feeling stuck and like you're not moving, sometimes that is the integration period. It's not that you are stuck or stagnant or that you're not moving or that you're failing. It is it is integration. Anyway, so the deeper insight to this dream in a nutshell is that the whole motorhome, the headache, the getting up, the checking, the everything that I've mentioned was very much showing me. my inner landscape at the moment and where I am. And it's like my higher self and my soul are now self-propelling me through currents and streams and situations where I really it's like it's got this. I don't really need to be getting into the little all the little details of exactly where my path's going and how I'm going to arrive there. It's like this bigger knowing. It's like I was shown that I don't have to keep controlling this, that I can now rest assured that the bigger part of me has got this. I don't need to keep getting involved in trying to control well, how do I get there and when? And I can't see how that's going to work out. And it's like this was shown to me as clear as day that I no longer need to worry about these things. I can just like this is we're now on this path and it's going and kind of like I can relinquish control. I can have that trust, that faith. And the headache was representative of sometimes the friction of when the ego self tries to get in and go, but I need to do this and how do I do that? So almost taking the friction out of that, like stop resisting, especially when if I tune in really deeply, I know that the bigger part of me's got this. It's just every now and again that there's that panic that sets in and that like getting into survival mode. The main message was that I am carried. And even when I stop to breathe or whatever it is, the vehicle doesn't lose its path, lose its way, run out of gas. None of those things are going to happen. And what was so beautiful about all this is as irritated as I was getting in the dream with my headache and everything, it was so beautiful because I was just shown that I need to stop and actually become aware of this shift that has happened internally that I didn't realize had happened. That I'm literally getting, like, even more so than ever before, getting in my own way when I try to control everything. And it was like the bigger part of me really wanted me to notice the shift that had happened, what was going on, what I was doing, to recognize the patterns that are still playing out, those patterns of control, of maybe the panic, being in survival mode, whatever. There was so much, and it was so nuanced when I unpacked everything that it was quite profound. And that was, as I say, it was after a few things that had happened. And since then, I mean, I've already shared the dragon thing that happened. There was another thing that happened to me just 2 mornings ago, which I'm about to create another video on, which is pure magic. But it's almost like as I have an awareness of these things, it allows me to step into that slightly new space. It allows me uh, to stop trying to control, to stop trying to interfere. And then there's just like there are these levels and layers of magic that are just unfolding in real time. I feel like I'm becoming more and more and more almost allergic to this outside world. And I'm still able to operate in it, but it's like it's having less and less and less effect on me. I don't actually know what's going on in the news. I don't care. I don't care who's doing what. People send me stuff on politics and whatever. I don't look at it. I couldn't care. The bottom line is that I don't have any control over those things and I'm not going to energize them. So I'm going to stay in here and I'm going to stay where the magic is because I've always believed in it. And I always was looking around in this world wondering when I was little, like, where the hell is the magic? Like, where the hell is it? I can feel it, but I can't see it. And now, the more I hold that magic and the more I believe in it, the more it's just going to ripple out. I encourage everybody out there who's getting a little bit despondent with the world. I think things are going to get quite chaotic and whatever, to just remember what you have right here. Remember your home, remember your heart, and just remember that if you are feeling panicked and in these situations, that it's part of the illusion. And so that's really my dream and my message today. And I do hope that it's helped somebody out there. I encourage you to just start to notice what's going on around you. Are you acting a little bit differently? Are you handling things a little bit better? Some of these things we're so easy to berate ourselves and to knock ourselves down, but we never ever give ourselves credit for how far we've come or how differently we handled the situation. And so it's an invitation to you today to notice, whether you handled something differently than you would have had in the past. All of these are indicators for me that the higher self or the soul is edging ever closer into the driver's seat, and also to help you to realize that if you're almost having like where you're able to sort of like almost see the two sides of you arguing, that could be what's happening. And it really is a stranger than strange place to be a lot of the time. And most of the time I end up just laughing it off because well, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe 30, 40 years ago I might have already been in a padded cell in a little white jacket, but I just whatever. I mean, we're talking about dragons openly these days and all sorts of things. And after the experience I had like 48 hours ago waking up, I just the magic is here, the magic is real, and it's exactly as Roald Dahl said. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. And I've always believed in magic, and holy smokes, I am starting to actually see it. We've got this. I think September might be a bit rough. I've got lots of changes going on, and it's been a bit hectic, but it's weird because the deeper the shadow work and the deeper well, sort of the darker some of the days are, the when you come out of them, the higher the highs are and the lighter the light is. And it's just, it's really quite fascinating what's happening. We can all ride the crazy train together. I mean, it's so much more fun than the sane train. I mean, I just, and it doesn't matter how dark things get in my world and for me and with what I'm working through, like day in and day out. I always think to myself, I just, I'll take this a thousandfold over going back to living in that false reality, in that control structure. I just, I can't, I can't, I just, I can't go back to that way of living. And we still have to kind of conduct ourselves in this 3D realm sometimes where it's very 3D and, some things you've just got to do. And so it's just a reminder that I think, we've got sort of we only had the ego side, and then we've had this bigger side starting to come in. And I think that gap's kind of going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as we go on in this journey. But yeah, it can feel like, well, I think we are literally losing our minds. We are tuning back into the heart, and it's a symptom of just unplugging from this mental construct, unplugging from the matrix, where you can also feel like you're a bit lost and a bit floaty. And just on that note, really, really important to ground at the moment. So when we're unplugging from the structure that we feel held us and was around us and what have you, as we're unplugging from that, we really need to be in the body, and we really need to ground, and we need to ask Gaia to hold us, and she will, and she is. Make sure that you go and you get out and you ground. Everything is happening in the body. It has to happen through the body. And the body is this divine, intelligent vehicle that we are riding around in, and it knows exactly what to do. Anyway, with all that being said, wishing you all a magical rest of your day wherever you are. May your coming days and weeks and months be absolutely filled with magic in between all the very strange moments. Thank you so much for watching.